What's going on, guys? It's the one round Ricom. Today I am joined by the other half of hashtag Carboys, Mineral Gamer Cole himself, Emerald,
Hey,
or
hashtag
specifically
Carboys.
Emerald Gamer Mineral.
Yep, that's
Yes,
me. That's
many
me.
minerals.
What? Hey, everybody. Welcome to hashtag Cardboys. I know you're on Rollins' channel right now. You know, with your eyes on the whole channel thing. But just so you know, this is like a whole collaboration thing. We're gonna be doing a whole bunch of stuff like this. Maybe not even physical card game related, but virtual card game related stuff. Over on our collective channel, The Mineral Gamers.
We peep the shirt,
I'm
the
shit.
Mineral
I'm
Gamers.
sure you've. I'm sure if you've been subscribed to Rollin for this amount of time, I'm pretty sure you know by now. But he is a part of a Let's Play channel that I just mentioned. But we're doing our own segment with just me and him called hashtag Cardboys, and to commemorate that, we're doing a little bit of a collab on his channel. So also for everyone who's seen me, I'm back.
Yep. Yeah, he's popped up and playing a lot, mostly like the pre-releases, and otherwise he's usually my partner in crime there among the other rose gallery of people we have here.
It's true. It's true.
But today we're here for something special.
Hey, we got a deck profile.
Yep.
Me as a closet competitive player. I guess mostly casual, but I'm reaching back into the whole competitive scene of things. When it comes to Yu-Gi-Oh, we're doing a deck profile on my favorite deck, Gem Knights, specifically Gem Knight FTK. It's been play tested over and over and over again, and it is take two, considering the last time we did this, the ban list dropped.
The next
And we
day.
got fucked.
That's
Yeah,
why
so.
I mentioned this in the PokeCrate video that I got up before this. That we recorded it, and I still have that deck profile of my Thunder Dragons uploaded to YouTube. And I was the day of that Friday at like 11 a.m. in the morning before it was dropped before I woke up, and I woke up to the ban list, which hit like two specific cards out of my deck, and I was like, I can't just say, it works.
So unfortunate. However, we're gonna make this one quick and easy. If y'all know me, I tend to go on a little bit long, much like we're doing right now. So let's get right into it. We're gonna go with all the things that are important. So, Mr. Cameraman Ron, would you please give me the angle that I need? Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
Smooth.
But so we're gonna start off with the most important play in the deck. Well, I guess not the most important, but the most important monster that you need quintessentially anyway. We got three. I do mixed rarities. I do apologize for those who do care. I do care personally myself, but these cards are, hard to just randomly come by. I'm gonna pass them down on the table as we go.
That's convenient. Just say, like, if you're gonna set them, put them right here. In the
Sounds
middle.
good. Sounds good. Yeah, we were having a little bit of a struggle with the camera. Sorry, people. But he's your plan A when it comes to your plays. He's pretty solid to get you a search. However, with all the spell cards and whatnot, he does use your normal summon to get that search off.
I'll bring one up for you, so you guys
getting that search off will either extend your combo or begin it, even if you may or may not need it at that time. But he is your plan A. You want to try and open with him as much as possible. Moving on. I'm just going to slide everything over here, I guess. Moving on, we got 2. Rescue Rabbit. He's playing B. Once again, sorry for the mixed rarity. He's pretty solid. This deck runs a lot of vanillas, so it's just a no-brainer to just kind of run a monster that can just pump them out as much as possible. Alternatively, if you don't have Rescue Rabbit just laying around, or you don't feel like using your normal summon form, because you do kind of have to normal summon form, for most of the time. But you can replace him with Unexpected Die. You could find a lot of alternatives. Grave Summon alternatives. You could replace with Rescue Rapid. But overall, he's probably your best play. He'll bring out a copy or a duplicate of 2 vanillas you got in your deck, as long as you have them in your deck to target at that given moment. He's your plan B. If you don't have Gem Armadillo, go for him. Plan C, and also sort of just a utility tool that you can use during the midst of your turn. Gem Knight Alexandrite, he's not super great. If you can use your extra normal summon on him from Seraphinite and then get an extra special summon that way, that's really nice. However, if you don't open up with Rescue Rabbit or Gem Armadillo, he's sort of a backup and can help you at least get Graveyard built up so you can do plays for Block Dragon and whatnot. Also, he's a good target for Zirconia, considering he's just a generic rock. But that's really about it for him. Next, we got 1 Crystal Rose. I'll cover this when we go into the side deck. But you pretty much only need 1 or 2 Preferably, if you really want to get Seraphonite out that quickly, even though she's not really the best for Gem Knights in a sense, there are better alternatives that you could do at the beginning of your turn to summon. But Crystal Rose will help you get that out. It's pretty much your only target for Brilliant Fusion to get Seraphonite out. Also, its effect is pretty amazing, although it's hard once per turn for both of their effects, so it's pretty rough. But it'll help you get that special summon out that you need.
I mean, Yu-Gi-Oh needs more hard ones per turns. The whole Sky Striker archetype is busted because there is no hard ones per turn.
There you go. Next, we go into the vanillas, the bread and butter, the most important cards in the deck.
The Brick.
Technically. The Brick himself, Gem Knight Garnet, or I guess the Garnet himself, Gem Knight Garnet.
He's the one that coined the term Garnet for any other deck of a card you don't want to draw. Because he big.
But with the Gem Knight deck, thankfully, it's kind of acceptable to have these cards in your hand at the start or at some point during your draw, considering you can have cards to dispose them with at all times, pretty much, 90% of the time. But he does make arguably some of the most important minor fusions of the deck that really get around certain things like battle protection and whatnot. So we'll get to that when we get to that. However, we got 2 Gem Knight Garnet. I wouldn't recommend running 3. Try to run at least 2 of every vanilla that you can, as long as you can mix and match the versatility with your extra deck. Just make sure you balance it correctly. Next, we got 2 Tourmaline. Same story with Garnet. He's pretty important. The Thunder type monsters in the extra deck are completely valid use of monsters. Topaz and Prismara. Yes, thank you. They're both. That one. Yeah, everyone knows Prismara. I like that one. But they're both very valid monsters to use in the extra deck. Good removal, good battling, good battling opportunities. Considering the FTK can't truly be done with burn anymore, you kind of have to throw some battle damage in there, unfortunately. But we do get by.
You can do like 7k give or take, but given all your fusion monsters are huge, kind of helps you there.
We got Gem Knight Lapis. The last pair of vanillas. Obviously, we all know what she does. She gets out the big burn monster. That's the bane of everyone's existence.
But what she does is she's the best friends with Lazuli.
She's pretty self-explanatory. Once again, always run 2 of all of the vanillas at least 2 of all the vanillas that you think you'll need. Running 3 can run risk of bricking a little bit too hard, but if you can find a way around using that many normals in a deck, go right ahead. And last but not least, which I will get to eventually for explanation, we're only running 1 Sapphire. Originally we were running 2, but we took... cards have come out since then that takes the application of an extra deck monster in the deck completely irrelevant. So we just run 1 for 1 extra deck monster. We'll get to that combo when we get to it, because it's a very vital play, especially for disruption in today's metagame. So we'll go into that when we hit the extra deck. Moving on into Gem Knight Obsidian. I don't know why I'm just throwing cards out everywhere, but he's pretty much a no-brainer. If you already have all the necessary cards to fuse and whatnot, you absolutely want to try and search him every single time, as long as you have steps ahead of you. As long as you're thinking 2 steps ahead, you can always get cards out of the graveyard from him. It's at least a guaranteed 2 special summons that way. It's hard to get around your opponent if you're just swarming Obsidian everywhere. And on top of that, once he's in the grave, you can banish him to get cards back. You can use him as material with the Link monster to fuse other things in, so you have him in the deck even more, so you can just continually search him in other ways. He's an amazing card, and I feel like if you're running Gem Knights, this card must be run. There's no alternative. Next, we got 2 Lazuli. Some people run 3. 3 Lazuli's a little bit rough, considering that she has to be sent by an effect. So she's she has application, but she does bring the vanillas back to your deck, or back to your hand rather. And if you have combo pieces like the fusion cards or whatever in your hand, you can definitely get around certain people's plays by baiting fusion monsters, getting the monster from Lazuli, and then summoning again. If just in case you're trying to get out negates or even try and get more presence on the field, she's wonderful for that. She also combos well with Obsidian, considering you can just fuse if you really needed to, you could just fuse those 2 away to make Zirconia, and both of their effects will go off as long as you have targets in the graveyard.
I used to use her when Brilliant Fusion was out 3, and I used it in Blue Eyes. Free Blue Eyes back to hand as a normal one.
Yep.
Very inconvenient. Sad that it got knocked to 1, but
yeah, and these things do happen. Next, we got 2 Black Dragon. You can run 2 or 3. I wouldn't recommend running 1. 1 will never show up. Not really anyway.
And this dude is absurd.
He is omni-important for this deck. Every card you're running is an Earth type. There's no excuse to run anything else in this deck, honestly, element-wise. Or attribute, sorry. Yeah. Yu-Gi-Oh's got to be that special about it.
Well, they have attributes and types.
Yeah. But anyway, so everyone knows what he does at this point. If you don't, just so you know, it's just ban 3 Earth from graveyard or hand. Special summon him. That effect is not once per turn. Always remember that specific effect. When he's sent to the grave for literally any reason, you get to search up to 3 monsters that equal level 8. Absolutely broken card in this deck. Deck would never make it anywhere near this far if this card didn't exist.
Doesn't he have some sort of battle protection too?
Yes, he protects all of your rock monsters except by battle. Battle is the only way to destroy rock monsters while he's on.
And then if you summon him, he's got 3k defense.
Yep.
They have to run over him to run over anything else or get rid of him. Yeah, so he can't be destroyed by card effects, so he has to be destroyed by battle. So
yep.
You have to run over a 3k body before you can get to anything else.
Oh yeah. Next up, we got 3 Ashes. You can replace this with any hand trap, really. I just prefer Ash. There's not really much to that. Disruption is disruption, and we love that right now.
You don't get to touch your deck. Stop that.
Next, we move into the traps. The traps are pretty interchangeable in this deck, I would say. With back row removal kind of being a little bit more relevant these days, coming back in slowly. Wasn't a few months ago, but we're starting to see it more and more. You can try and do some back row, but we'll cover that in the side deck. We got Brilliant Spark, which can ironically be your kind of delayed FTK. If they're smart enough to work around it, then you're kind of boned. This basically essentially just does burn damage equal to the original attack of any Gem Knight monster that leaves the field due to an opponent's doing whatever they're doing. So it's a pretty good burn if you can get out Lady Brilliant and burn them for 34 in game without really having to think about it. All you gotta do is just set a card. And if they're not running back row removal and they didn't side into it to counter it because you don't have it, then whatever.
Back row removal has come up with the deck I play, Danger Thunder. We don't main any Twin Twitchers, any of that. So
yeah.
The opportunity, I can do a big combo, but if I don't have any life points, I don't have any life points.
However, if they do have removal, I would recommend siding out Brilliant Spark with something else. That's mostly just for a cheesy, just game-ending turn.
Because with this, it's an FTK. You do want to go first.
Yes.
So if you draw a trap and set it and do your 7k damage and can burn for 3k more, you're kind of set.
Next, we got Gem Enhancement. It's a pretty neat card, honestly. You contribute a Gem Knight monster to summon any Gem Knight monster from the graveyard as long as it was summoned properly in the case of the fusion monsters. So if you just have a basic Crystal Rose out on the field and you have used its effect and you have this card set by chance, you can get rid of the Crystal Rose. That way you don't leave yourself open, summon a Gem Knight fusion and save Crystal Rose's effect for more purposes than what's intended, so that way you can get that out. Next up is Solemn Judgment. I've been kind of realizing that I get screwed out of one play, and that one play usually happens at the very start of their turn, and I had this card sided for the longest time, but I feel like even at 1 and cutting your life points in half, with this deck, you're only going to spend a minimum of 2,000 before you either win or lose. So either way, it's unless they're running a burn deck, you're probably good, safe to run this card. If they're running a burn deck, then obviously side it out because you won't survive the next turn. Starting with spill cards, we got Gem Knight Fusion. You can even run this card at 2 instead of 3. I prefer to run it at 3 because if I don't draw it, which sometimes you just don't, even though you can search it, you want it as fast as possible, as much as possible, because it does count as a Gem Knight card. Certain Gem Knights really do count for that, and it's an infinitely reusable card that you can use on your turn, unless they call by the grave it.
Well, I'm pretty sure Call by the Grave only works on the monsters anyway.
Does it?
I think so.
I might be just screwing up. All right, but anyway,
the point is there.
Yes. If they called by the grave effect ish, it, you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Absorb Fusion, an amazing card that I don't see enough people run when it comes to this deck. Yes, it's only a hard. The effect of it in general is only a hard once per turn. You can only play this card once per turn, but it does give you a free search of any monster that you want. And on top of that, if you really don't have any other option, you can opt to fuse monsters from your hand by banishing them. If you're a Gem Knight player, you know that banished cards do not mean anything to you whatsoever. You can perfectly get around banishment. It does not matter. Also, I just want a mat of that card. It just sounds amazing to me.
Yeah, that's a pretty good card art. Next
up we got the Brilliant Fusion. Unfortunately at 1, but we all know this at 1 still doesn't really hurt us. It would be a slight improvement if they bumped this up to 2, but having this card at 3 is almost bricky considering you can only play it once per turn.
And it's also one of the best ultimate rares.
Yeah.
Look at that.
You have so many other means of summoning things out of the extra deck than Brilliant Fusion. Brilliant Fusion is like, if you get it out of your first draw, you're like, oh cool, I got Brilliant Fusion. I can start my turn with that, I guess.
And so if you do want to be able to search it, there is a Predaplant engine if you want to search it out. So if you want to do that, that's something you could do with the deck. So Orphis Scorpio and Darling Cobra, I think is the ones to search it out. So if you really want to get to that, give it. But in this case, since you have 4 different types of fusion cards in the main deck alone, it's just another. It's just not necessarily a win more card, but in the same instance, you don't need it to win. It's just hey, that's a bonus.
Magnet Reverse, I'm pretty sure all of you who play machine type decks at this point know what the application of this card is.
Funny thing about this card is that right after we recorded the original deck profile, people found out they can. Shit. Yeah, people found oh, we can use this, and I think it was Orchist or whatever because they're all machines.
Yeah.
And this card spiked up to $50 same day. And I looked at Cole, you've been using this card forever.
Yeah,
and now it's
super out of a starter deck.
Yeah.
Super out of a starter deck. We all know what it does. In case you don't, in this card sense, it brings Master Diamond back to as many as you want. You can run 1 or 2 of these. I wouldn't recommend running 3 just because of the fact that you might brick a little bit harder than you want to. But if you want to run more, go right ahead. I do have 1 inside.
Yeah.
Next is Hey Trunade. Gotta say it right? But this card completely takes the relevance of Gem Knight Amethyst completely out of your deck. You don't need Gem Knight Amethyst whatsoever. This card does the exact same thing. You could even side this card if you really wanted to. It's not that big of a deal. But either way, this card completely serves the purpose of an entire extra deck monster that you would more or less have to spend resources for. So we're gonna run this instead, since it's only a one of that you just need. Especially since back row removal is getting more important. Next we get Card Destruction. Please, for the love of God, people who are playing this deck, do not run Morphing Jar because you can search it from Block Dragon. Just play Card Destruction, please. Just play Card Destruction. There was a few decks that were floating around that just had Morphing Jar instead of Card Destruction, and some of them were running them both. I wouldn't recommend the Morphing Jar thing. For this deck, it's way too slow, and there's no way to special summon it out and get it face down. So it's just not worth running. So run Card Destruction because your cards in this deck really do get a true benefit out of discarding. So if you can definitely make a play to take advantage of that, you're good. And next we have the rest of the one-ofs, which are pretty much just staple cards. Raigeki, I know a lot of people cite it, but if they got a pretty menacing board and you don't want to risk the special summon burn from Lapis Lazuli, you can wipe them or bait out a negate with this or whatever you really want to do, just as long as you use this just for the sole purpose of trying to get rid of your opponent's board in case you can't run over it that turn. Because there are monsters this deck can't run over. And next we got Monster Reborn. Monster Reborn is pretty standard. It's Monster Reborn. We got it.
Well, what does it do?
But I don't know. Alright, then extra deck. This is pretty simple. Gem Knight Phantom Quartz. I'm realizing now I have made an error in my side deck. You really only need to run 2. There's not a deck? Side deck. There's not a reason to run this card at 3. It's way too much, and you're either not going to survive or the game is not going to last long enough for you to make all 3 of these. Very rarely will you ever be able to need all 3. Next we got... No, I'm just going to move that right there. Next we got Decode Talker. I run Decode Talker mostly because he just gets big in the sense of the board. Also, getting rid of Phantom Quartz and Block Dragon, you can easily make Decode. You could replace this with any rank. You could replace this with any Link 3. I almost said rank 3 for some reason, but he's just standard. He has that negate. He has the negation effect, the power bonus. It's whatever. You can, if you can find a better replacement, you're more than welcome to. Next up is Saryuja. It doesn't seem worth it at first. In all honesty, to run this card with this field that you make every turn. But the draws will be worth it, guaranteed, that you get off of it. Because sometimes you do just have a lot of cards laying in your hand here and there that absolutely just won't be used for the rest of the duel, so you might as well send them back. Plus those link arrows and the special summon definitely make up the field for what you put into it. So.
And his plus 300 attacking defense can make that burn or make that ending their HP, their life points that much higher. You can take Lady Diamond, who's 3,400, make her 37, and
next we got Gem Knight Zirconia.
Big fist guy.
He's big. He's big. He's that 29 guy. Everyone knows him. Everyone hates him probably.
He punches.
We got Prismara. We already covered him. He's good. He's good removal.
He's basically a Dryden. If you have a spare Thunder card in hand, you can discard it to pop a card on the field.
Yep.
Very convenient.
We got Gem Knight Citrine, which is a good combo piece with Master Diamond if you don't have the burn option. He's got a bit of the Ancient Gear effect of Yesteryear on him, where you can't activate cards or effects, but this one is just overall in general. It's a pretty blanket one where most of those monsters back in the day was just like one specific kind of thing. His attack's not super impressive, but he can get behind a lot of stuff that would have battle protection and whatnot. Just sort of those innate effects that you normally just can't negate with this deck. Seraphonite, everyone knows what it does. It's the Brilliant Fusion. It should just be Gem Knight Brilliant Fusion, honestly, but we get the point. And then here's our combo with Sapphire that I mentioned earlier. Aquamarine is basically has a Grand Mole effect. He scoops up when he leaves the field. Using that and using him as a fusion material with another card in your hand can definitely confuse your opponent quite a bit. And if they have a monster that you can't absolutely get rid of no matter what, guaranteed they won't have protection against that effect. Pretty much. Very few instances where they will. But that is a good way to get an extra deck monster on their field back to the extra deck, so that way you don't have to worry about it. They have to jump through some hoops. Next we got Gem Knight Ruby. He's meant originally as a Particle Fusion, I believe is what the card is, where you make him really big and you can use his effect to tribute another monster, make him even bigger and attack. I haven't tried that variant out. I don't know if that would really work. I remember I've run it before, but it has become really bricky in the past, if my memory is correct. But you can use this to enhance other monsters, enhance himself or Master Diamond in the case, and he does inflict piercing damage. So if your opponent runs a lot of 0 defense and they don't have battle protection or any way to negate an attack, go right for that for game if you can, on top of the burn damage, because it will be important. Next we got Lapis Lazuli. She burns 500 for every special summon on the field. The only thing with these next two monsters is that you can only special summon them once per turn, so you do have to be kind of careful on when you do them. Never usually summon Lapis Lazuli first, but you want to make sure that when you're making the bigger board and setting up, you get rid of her first, so that way she's in your grave preemptively instead of having to just wait. Having a bigger board initially sounds like a good idea, but you're gonna end up with about 4 monsters at best midway through the turn when you want to do the burn, and then you'll want to go for damage. Next, we got Lady Brilliant Diamond. She's the second boss monster of it all. She has a really good effect. She tributes a Gem Knight monster to summon one. From the extra deck, ignoring its summoning conditions, and it does count as a fusion summon, which is the most important part, so that way you can bring them all back. It's the easiest way to get out Master Diamond. Like I mentioned earlier, setting up boards. An alternative way is to just use Lapis Lazuli as target for Master Diamond, so that way you can just get it out, and then continue your turn with the burns and setting up your field. It's the most effective way to do that. But she does have other applications that you can do. And next we got Master Diamond. He's a copycat. He banishes a fusion monster. Can't banish Lady Brilliant, but he can banish any other one in your deck, fusion monster wise, and copy its effect. And then you can use that effect, whatever it may be at that given point. He's your ultimate source of versatility. You can bring him back with Magnet Reverse. That's really about it. Next.
He's limited to 1 because of the FTK.
Yeah, a little bit of a sneak peek at the side deck. Mind you, it's a little bit memey, and I have made a slight mistake, but I'm not really a side deck person. Once again, I'm still getting into this, so sorry everyone. But we have one unexpected die. I used to run this at 3, but running it at 3 and Rescue Rabbit was getting a little bit ridiculous, so I cut it down. However, if you are running up against an opponent in which they have a deck that likes to go first, they lose the first game, they decide to go first, you might want to side out for unexpected die, so that way on your second turn, on your first turn rather, you can just play unexpected die to try and bait something out. Very helpful. Next we have another Magnet Reverse. Already covered that. We have one evenly matched. I would run 2, but having a lot of traps in this deck does sort of slow things down. The moment you draw a trap, that's basically a -1 in your hand. Obviously you can set it and it has use, but most of the time, like I said earlier, you either won't survive a battle or the battle won't last long enough for you to actually be able to use the card. Negates are heavily prevalent with the Red Eyes bullshit and all that. Witch's Strike. A lot of people are kind of knocking this card.
Hot Red?
Yeah. Hot Red and all that. With Witch's Strike, negates are something that they don't want to run into. Nobody wants to run into a negate. But this card completely just counters. Ironically, it's not counter trap, but whatever. This completely counters all negates, essentially, and it will definitely ruin their day if they do let it happen. Unfortunately, it's not a counter trap, so they will get a reaction out of it if they can. For the meme, Anti-Regeki, moving on. Our removal, I was thinking about running Twin Twister, but I would rather run Heavy Storm Duster, just solely because sometimes on your turn when you go, they don't really have a back row to get rid of. So you kind of want to just set this down and wait and see what they do. If they get a field spell, you might want to just pop that or whatever seems appropriate at the time. You can switch that out for Twin Twisters if you'd like. Next we got Dogoran, mostly just to get rid of big extra deck monsters, but also alternatively, if you really wanted to on your turn, you could tribute a normal summoned monster, special summon him, so that way you have more targets for Lapis Lazuli and the burn in general. 1 extra Rescue Rabbit, because if you need 3 and the game starts running that long, it's mostly a game 3 switch out. Crystal Rose, same deal. You can run 1 or 2 of them. Wouldn't recommend 3. It's kind of bricky, but just in case card. 1 extra Plan C there. And then the mistake, Gem Knight Phantom Quartz. Like I said, I wouldn't recommend running 3, but there are very extreme situations where it might be possible to use it. And then we have one extra Citrine. You could trade him out for Gem Knight Topaz. Topaz has that Flame Wingman, can't speak, battle effect, where he attacks twice, he does damage equal to an opponent's attack value or whatever, and he attacks twice, and it's not limited to monsters or direct attack, so you can definitely spam it out. But if you need that extra negation of of effects of any kind during the battle, you might want to run a second one just in case. And that's it.
Yep. Anything else you want to say?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, #CardBoys, first deck profile. Sorry if it sucked, everyone. You can give me shit about it over at The Mineral Gamers, the ultimate segue.
Only if you subscribe can you give me hate comments.
Yeah, so hate comments are for subscribers only, thank you. But just feel free to support The Mineral Gamers as freely as you want. #CardBoys is definitely going to be a very prevalent thing here in the near future. We already have a bunch of ideas we've kind of brainstormed over, and it's definitely going to be like a special sort of time. So if you're really interested, go check it out. If you support us, you support Rollin even further than you even are now. So yeah, thanks for watching, guys. And we'll see you in the next video.
See ya.